and welcome back to The Price is Right.
Yep,
Sorry about that.
wrong show. Sorry, guys. We got a little mix up there.
We were just rehearsing for something.
Yeah, we thought we were on a game show. Sorry about that. With the colors and the lights, it's a little hypnotic. You know
I know,
what I mean?
right?
Anyway, dude. With that, do you want to introduce?
Do the introductions?
Yes,
well,
do our introductions.
If you are just joining in to the SS Nerds of the Decade.
Yes, and you do not know who we are, which hopefully, if you're a longtime watcher and you've been watching up to episode 20, and this episode, which is 21, right, dude?
Number 21.
Then
hey, we're legal now.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, dude, that means we should... Hey, dude, that means that we can do this.
Exactly.
Since we're evil now.
So, we are your captains.
Yeah.
Captain A. Goldman,
Yep.
also Captain Hef.
Yeah, my name is Aaron Goldman, or A. Goldman. And,
And
or Captain Hef,
yep,
whichever one you prefer.
I know, right?
And this over here is Mr. AKA
Captain D. Lewis.
Yes,
or
Dante Lewis.
sure.
Yes, or DJ Lewis, if you prefer to call him that.
Yeah, whatever
yes. And we are your hosts. And no, I'm not Venom this time. Okay, I'm not.
No, he's not Venom.
Yeah,
somebody didn't get him this time. So
no, yeah.
You're good.
Yeah,
You're good.
This episode we're fine. I'm not dying like Tony Stark. Okay.
No, he's not, Dad.
Yeah. But you know what? Dante, in this episode, I actually do.
I smell cookies!
I do smell cookies.
Yeah, this time he does smell cookies.
So, dude, tell everybody what our topic is today. Because we have,
man.
oh, boy, do we have a good one, right,
Oh,
dude?
yeah, definitely. And I think any single anime fan out here has suffered from this particular syndrome at least once. Now, I will probably pull out my somewhat obtained for no particular reason medical degree.
Overactive fan syndrome?
Something like that.
Overactive.
But I think this particular one is going to be known as anime dropout syndrome. Whatever works.
Yeah, and I know what some of our audience might be thinking. They might be thinking,
Oh, you think you're big?
and
apparently so.
And to that, yes, we would say that. But also, this is also more serious because, dude, I know that a lot of people who start watching anime might just all of a sudden be like, hey, look, I'm tired of the show, or hey, look, this is kind of boring, or I'm just not feeling this one.
It's
what
basically
I mean?
like have you ever really found yourself hyped up for like a new anime only to drop it like halfway through the season?
You could be like,
some strange reason.
Dude, can you imagine, right? If you're really pumped, you could be like this. You'd be like, you'd be like. Right?
I'm super
like, I'm so excited. Yeah. But then all of a sudden, once you start watching, all of a sudden it goes quickly from that to like this to.
It's official. You suck.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
dude, you ever had that with something?
Yeah, I think this actually happened to you a couple times.
Oh yeah, of course. So, dude, what were you gonna say? Go ahead.
So basically, guys, if you've heard of this syndrome or you've been exposed to it, like this dude has,
That's funny.
basically, anime dropout syndrome is basically when you're watching some new type of anime that you've probably seen before or heard of before, but not kind of, I don't know, for whatever reason. You're in like 3, maybe 4 episodes in, and then all of a sudden, you drop it.
Yep, you just lose it all over the ground, Eddie.
Exactly.
Remember that, Dante?
I know, right? So yeah, we're basically going to break down the 5 most common reasons why certain fans drop certain shows.
Yeah, and there's actually a number of different reasons, right, dude?
Right.
There's a lot of different reasons for not.
Oh, yeah.
to watch.
There's also upgraded
so
reasons.
I'll give you a
too.
good example, dude.
All right.
And one was that, remember that series called Yuki Holder, which sadly it was supposed to be the continuation to Negima, but really didn't do well. And also, I felt like they got okay, so here's the number one problem with that one. There's a lot of plot holes. Like, they did not explain a whole lot of mess in that one. And also, my number one reason for dropping out of that show and like just not continuing to follow it was the immortal thing, right? If you're immortal, that sucks out all the fun of the show. You're like, as soon as you're like, oh, he's immortal, I was like, okay, I'm done.
Can't.
Yeah.
Look, everybody can't be a la carte.
You
Come
can't
on,
be
man.
so okay. You can't be immortal and not have some kind of weakness or some way to die. Now, Alucard pulls it off pretty well, but remember, he's not immortal the entire show.
No.
He's not technically. he's somewhat immortal. He's not fully immortal because you could technically get rid of him, but it would be really difficult.
I thought it would usually be by the state because
yeah, correct. But also remember, he absorbed the power of everywhere but
That's
nowhere.
True. That's
so
true.
there is a way to beat him, but it's just really, really difficult. So it's that it is that Schrodinger's cat theory, right? So
maybe it is. Maybe it is.
And so whereas true immortality, you can't physically. The person cannot be killed, right?
Right.
So with Yuki Holder, you're like, well, he basically cannot die, and you're like, well, that takes the fun out of the whole entire show. Like, what are you gonna do? You're like, you can make them fight.
You pretty much made everybody.
Yeah, it's like you can make them fight, you can make them suck each other dry, but like, you're
doesn't
like,
matter what you do, they can't.
Yeah,
die.
it's like, what's the fun in that? You're like, that takes the whole fun out of magic and everything.
I know, right?
If there's no risk to the person's life, it's no fun.
Exactly.
The other thing too that I was going to bring up is Dragon Ball Super has done immortality pretty well because you can get immortality through the Dragon Balls, right? You can become immortal, right?
Frieza tried that.
Yeah, and Zamasu has done that with the Goku Black Arc. The version of Zamasu, one of the versions of Zamasu did become immortal, but it is not true. It is not foolproof. You still can be defeated. You can still die through Zeno, which he dies.
I've heard a lot of people didn't really necessarily like the ending of that.
Yeah, that arc was the sorry about that. There's something that popped up on screen. On our camera screen, sorry. But so yeah, that arc was disappointing with the end because they left Trunks in kind of a
What the kind
purgatory state, you know?
Yeah, basically.
Left it with kind of nothing. And then also Goku Black Arc, the ending where they fuse was kind of disappointing too. But anyway, tell people about
the most
our
common.
topics. Yeah.
All right.
Because we're getting we kind of got way off.
No. But you actually brought us some really good points.
Yeah, I did. I brought up some good examples. But,
those are just basic examples of why some people make.
So some shows, like when you see that, right? Some writers do it very well. They have there's always a catch-22 or double-edged sword to having that kind of power. Like, yeah, you might be immortal, but there's also a downside, or there's also some way you can actually be defeated.
There's always something that can counteract.
Counteract it. Yeah, so that's a good story writer. Is that, if you always have to have a plot twist or something to make it interesting, and some shows don't have good twists to them where you're like, hey, I'm kind of bored. This sucks.
Or they misplay it and it doesn't end up being what they were looking for. But yeah, guys, here is the top 5. Well, not top 5, but these are just like the 5 most common ones.
So go ahead, dude. Tell us the category.
Now this one. Oh my God, this one you're super familiar with. I'm super familiar with. There's a lot of people that are super familiar with this one.
Okay, go ahead.
This one is lack of character development.
So dude, we have a whole podcast, right? We have a whole podcast episode on character development. Yeah, go check it out.
Watch number 3, and you will see exactly what we mean. Why this is like one of the top reasons why people drop out so quickly.
It's a big one. Let's put it that way.
It's a doozy.
So
yeah, honestly, not all shows like suffer from this, but there's a handful that might need to step it up in this area.
Yeah, sometimes I think that people get distracted, and then your character development just turns into.
Exactly.
Sometimes
it just becomes a fart at a
fart in the wind. It blows away.
But yeah, I mean, honestly, dude, there's a handful of anime that I have watched where, because there's a lack of the character development, they rely way too much on like plot devices too much.
Well, okay, so dude, you bring up a good point. That's a really good point. They also rely on fan service too much,
right?
Which is something that some shows do way too often, where they rely on slapstick.
It literally becomes the point.
Yeah, where it's just they go overboard. You're like, whoa, this is just ridiculous. Now there is no really. So okay. Because you said that, right? There's more than a few shows that have taken slapstick to the point where you're like, okay, this is just it's not really comedy anymore. It's kind of become the main focus, which is not a good thing because then you lose your characters and kind of the purpose for having your characters and also their purpose for being in the show. And there's a lot of cases where you'll have stuff like that, right?
Yep.
So yeah, dude, that's a good point.
Yeah, it becomes too much of a driving force if you rely on it too much.
And you never want to let comedy or slapstick or plot device be your main front and center piece.
It has to be well timed.
Yeah, it has to be well tied and kind of blended in to where it's not front and center. You have a plot, you have a story, and you have your characters, your characters' reasons for doing what they do or for carrying out their mission or whatever the case may be. And then you have everything else kind of goes around that.
And everything else just falls into place.
Yeah, and that's for a good writer, Dante, and for someone who knows what they're doing, they don't suffer from any of these things.
Exactly.
You might say for a really good writer, it is.
Get over
Whoops,
here.
sorry, wrong button.
Get
It
over
is.
where?
Yeah, it is. No, not that. Hold on a minute.
He's still trying to find the right.
Sorry,
effects.
wrong button. I meant to do this one.
Too easy.
Yeah, for a good writer, it's
There it is.
Too easy.
sometimes.
There it
so
is.
yeah.
But yeah. Basically, lack of character development. Again, there are some exceptions to this cardinal rule, but as character development comes with progression, however, as character development comes with the progression of the story's plot, it's
Yeah.
it's basically one of the reasons why.
So, dude,
people may drop certain shows.
would you say that so because that's such a big factor, right? That's one of the main top ones. But would you say that that is a driving force to shows ending up being dropped, or do you think that some of the other things we're going to talk about
It plays a part in it.
are bigger factors? In
There are some
people
bigger
dropping.
factors, but
Okay.
it does play a major part in it, though.
Okay, so dude, tell us the next one.
Oh yeah, so definitely this one. Oh, we actually talked about this one earlier. It's funny that you mentioned about the Swiss cheese plots
Yeah,
because I
Swiss
guess that-
cheese.
yeah, I know that's what plot holes are for. It's
Yeah.
it's a Swiss cheese plot.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a Swiss cheese.
Yep.
Yeah,
it is sliced thin like a
It's sliced thin like my mother's back hair.
Oh, dude. That's
come on.
awful.
had me going with that one.
Yeah, dude. I was gonna say like a turkey sandwich or a deli sandwich, but you said back hair. Oh, dude, that's nasty.
Hey, dude, you were in my lane. I just had to hit it.
All right.
Get
Anyway.
the ball out there.
Yeah, dude. I feel like I need something to bring me back here. Because you killed
He's
me,
got an
dude.
extra life.
You killed me. That back hair joke, Dante. Let's just say it was.
Yeah, well, it wasn't that terrible.
Yeah, well, it was a little gross.
Yeah. Well,
Anyway, yeah.
But basically, this one is pretty much lack of substance with too many confusing plot lines.
Hey, dude. So let me ask you. Let me ask you something real
Really?
quick.
No, you let me ask you something.
So, dude, have you ever suffered from any of these, Dante?
The lack of substance or too many confusing plot lines?
Either one of them.
Oh, I think it would be this one. Yeah, but
Yeah,
this.
dude.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, sometimes in anime you have some great character development and good lines, but if the plot's has little to no substance or it's even confusing, some fans will just drop out.
Well, and then also sometimes, like you were saying before, sometimes they rely on one element too much,
Right.
and like that can really hurt the it can hurt the character development, but also you can kind of lose the character's reason for even being in the show, because if they are just there as slapstick comedy or they're just there as just a kind of you know how you see those characters just follow people around, right?
Yeah.
The main characters, like if they're just there as like a side thing to follow you around and just make jokes, you're like, well,
they don't
why?
really make any
Yeah.
contributions to the story.
And
They're just there.
Yeah, and they don't really add any elements to the story. That can happen where you can just lose the character's reason for even existing altogether if there's not a good base story or base reason, or they don't have any plot, or they're just relying on one thing too much.
Yep.
And that's a big deal, dude. That can be a big factor in someone dropping
it could
something.
definitely be like one of the pivotal factors why a lot of people may drop.
Now,
certain shows.
some people may argue if you're watching anime for just nonsensical nonsense, which some people turn their brain off while watching anime. They don't care. They're just like,
And
I'm
it
just gonna
also
watch it.
depends on the show itself.
Yeah.
If the show itself is basically nothing but full on nonsense and doesn't have a plot to it.
So kind of like, do you remember Shin-Chan?
Oh, yeah, I remember
Shin-Chan
that
was more of a cartoon than an anime.
It was.
But for those kind of people, I would say maybe go watch cartoons. Don't necessarily watch anime, because some of the stuff in anime is there to make you think, to make you feel. It's not necessarily there to turn your brain off. Dude.
Yeah,
I mean, you could,
true.
but you know,
and it also depends on what direction the artist or creator is going. With
true. No,
like,
I mean,
like if there's certain artists that are just basically going for like the comedy factor, like your Shin Chins, your Pop Team Epics, your
Pop Team Epics. Yeah, I mean
that's basically just raunchy, off the wall comedy.
It's kind of vaudeville humor in a way. Like that's what Family Guy does, right?
Yeah,
like just
Family Guy does the same thing.
Yeah, which is like it's just constant cutaways to like stupid
and
gags.
Rick and Morty.
Yeah, Rick and Morty.
Yeah.
Actually, Rick and Morty is different. Rick and Morty. Interesting thing about Rick and Morty is that there actually is a plot to Rick and Morty, and they actually do have a goal, right?
Yeah.
And so it's funny you say that because it's dumb science but smart comedy. So if you look at the season, well that's how the creators put it. That's their goal in writing it. Now if you look at the seasons and as the seasons continue, there is a plot. They do have a direction they're going in with Rick and Morty.
Right.
So you could say that when it starts out, it seems like nonsensical nonsense, but there actually is a plot. So what I was going to say though is that if you're going to turn off your brain and watch something where you want to turn off your brain, anime's not always, and depends on the show or the artist, like Dante was saying.
Right.
Anime's not always the greatest thing to do that to because a lot of the times when the writers are writing something or when they're creating something, a lot of times they are putting emotional pieces in there. They want you to feel something or they want you to kind of engage with it. And that's kind of what makes, and that could be a reason why people ditch shows because they don't feel like they're engaged.
They don't have that piece that keeps them in.
It's not that connecting factor, that emotional piece, or that kind of excitement, or that
even like a relatable factor.
Yeah, or even like you were saying, that relatable factor. So yeah, I mean, dude, don't you think that plays a big piece?
It does, and yeah. I mean, like once you see an anime that really blows you off the wall, and then you see something else that's like, what the hell is this?
Exactly. Now you could say, okay, here's a good example of something where you could turn your brain off to. Ed, Edd n Eddy. If you want to watch a really good cartoon where you can turn off your brain and have some fun.
You don't need to be smart to watch that.
Yeah, you don't have to be smart. That's pretty funny and also pretty... The slapstick is pretty funny. The jokes are funny. The play on words is absolutely awesome. To just the wordplay they do in there. So that's a good one. Like, and even American animation, you could kind of turn your brain off to, right?
That's true.
You don't necessarily have to. You don't necessarily have to figure out everything in Batman the Animated Series to watch it, right?
Right.
You could watch it and still understand it without really thinking too much about it. Spider-Man the Animated Series, you could do the same thing, right?
Yep.
Static Shock, wouldn't you say?
Oh yeah, Static Shock.
Yeah, Static Shock. So I'd venture to say even Samurai Jack, right? You don't have to be too smart to understand Samurai Jack. It's pretty simple plot, pretty simple thing. Good versus evil, right? Defeat Aku and
if you love samurai and demons,
if you like samurai and demons, you couldn't understand it.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, Attack on Titan, you could turn your brain off to. That's pretty basic plot, right?
Pretty much.
And anyone could do that. Now it gets more intense as it goes on, so you might
it does.
You might actually have to turn your brain back on when you go into the further seasons. But yeah, so anyway, dude, those are just some examples, guys.
Right.
So dude, let's go with the next one, dude.
Now, of course, also toss in the fact that Ichi and harem titles can fall into that.
So that's the one thing that I don't like with Ichi and harem titles is that
most of them don't really have a plot line substance.
Yeah, and then they don't really have a plot, and then they also, the other thing I don't like is that a lot of them don't go anywhere. You know what I mean? They lead you literally off a cliff. So like either they don't have an ending, or where it's like one of those shows where the characters pick somebody to be with, they never pick someone, or it just ends badly, and you're like, what the hell? Like, why am I watching this if it just ends in disappointment or ends in sadness? You're like, really? Sure. Like, is this why I watch romance, to just cry my eyes out every time, or watch a Ichi harem title so I can cry? I don't think so.
Well, dude, I can probably tell you this. It's funny that you talk. It's funny that you mention that, because the next common reason...
And you know what else I don't like, too, is that, and this is one other point I want to make, is that a lot of people, okay, and this is a common thing I see in a lot of Ichi harem and also just anime in general, people confuse the Ichi and harem genre with romance, guys. Just because it's Ichi and harem does not mean it's romance. A lot of Ichi harem titles, they play the sexy bit, but they're not actually in love with anybody, and that's the thing where the writers can throw you for a loop. because they can write a show where they make you think, oh, these characters are going to follow, and then all of a sudden at the end they're like, oh, there's
That's
no
not what happened.
the character, either he didn't pick the girl he wanted, or he just doesn't care, and it ends in disappointment, or just drops you off a cliff, and you're like, oh, okay, nothing happened, and it's like, why did I go through 24 episodes for nothing? So that's another common misconception, and also a reason why someone could drop a show. Where you're expecting a big ending, right? You're expecting something major to happen.
This big fairy tale ending, and all of a sudden,
and like so, like if you're watching something where it's a dude has to pick between 4 chicks, and then all of a sudden at the end you're like, oh, he's gonna pick somebody. And all of a sudden it's, oh, he doesn't pick anyone because it's because he can have everybody he wants at any time he wants. You're like, well, that's a lot of nothing.
Yeah.
Kind of like Shuffle. You remember Shuffle, dude? Because Shuffle, in the end of Shuffle, Raheem was gonna pick someone, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, it's a polygamous society. He can just have anybody at any time. You're like, well, why did I go through all this mess just to find out that he can just?
Yeah, why did I go through 12 episodes of this just to find out?
And you're like, so that's another thing that's one other thing where if the show doesn't go anywhere and there's no, like you said, there's no plot or no really story to it, nothing concrete to it, then you can really lose. You can pretty much say like, look, I'm dropping this one after
I'm
3 or 4 episodes because you're like, there's kind of nothing to it. Like, where am I going? What am I doing? It's not telling me anything. So and there's kind of no point. The characters aren't going anywhere. Oh, Rosario Vampire, the anime, right? I hate to bring this one up because people will argue right about this one, but if you read the manga and you look at the anime in the end, Sukune doesn't get anything, and the story doesn't go anywhere. It doesn't lead to anything major, other than like one battle, which is kind of disappointing because in the original manga it was way better, and it actually goes somewhere. It leads to a really cool.
Not to mention it gets really powerful.
Yes, it leads to more things happening and more interesting stuff in the future, and quickly. It also goes quicker. So that's another thing that dude, like, you can drop something really easily.
That's true. That's true. That's
so you're on here, dude. Sorry to
no, it's
go
all right.
off on a tangent there.
No, but you're definitely putting in some really good some really good stuff. But it's funny that you mentioned that because the next one, overbearing fan service and abuse.
Yeah, and dude, I'd venture to say on this one, right? And you guys may not. So a lot of people don't view it this way, but with the fan service stuff in anime, a lot of times I feel like it comes off wrong in a lot of situations, right?
They rely on it way too much.
They rely on it too much, and they go a little too far sometimes. Where you're like, okay. So I'll give you a good example. The show I just watched, with the Magic Academy, right? There's a character in there, the one that we just talked about. Yeah. Shoot, I can't think of the title. What was the name of the title?
Was it the Irregular Magical?
Yes, Irregular Magical Academy. Yes. There's a character in there where in a point in the show, you kind of wonder, why is this character still in here, and what's the point? And then later on, when you see one of the last episodes in the second season, they take her out,
right,
and she's not there anymore. You're like, wow, this show is actually really cool, right? It's like, because every character has a plot, and every character has a reason they play their part in the show and for being there, and you're like, except for one. And so there's a point in the show where you're like, okay, why is the character there? And what's the point of having her there if there's not really, she doesn't really do anything, she doesn't contribute much.
True.
And there's also a fan service scene in there where you can tell that they rely on it way too much in one particular episode, because again, they're doing a fan servicey type stuff. Yep. And when you look at the rest of the show and you're like, well, the rest of the series doesn't really need it. It is awesome.
It's also
without
just on its own.
Yeah, just on its own, without the fan service piece, the show on merits on just action and magic, and then characters, right? Just the good characters that were in there. Without that one character who you're like, well, they kind of don't really need that character there.
Yep.
And that's the thing where it's like when they rely on fan service too much, you lose a lot to. You lose the story. You lose a lot to the characters, and
the engagement kind of comes. It becomes disconnected.
You lose
a disconnect,
and you lose kind of your connection to the character because it just all turns into goofiness, and you're like, there's no reason.
Where's the story?
Yeah, like I started this for a story, and now I'm getting goo. You know?
Yeah,
it's like what the heck?
Yeah, it's basically you think it's going good. It's kind of like it starts off like this.
Yep.
That's what it starts off. Like.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden,
and then just like 4, maybe 5 episodes later, you're like, that's basically what you're getting.
Yeah, I mean, or dude, you could say, I mean, look, here's another good example, right? So it could start like this. But then, like, say you get maybe, I don't know, you get like 5 episodes in or halfway in, and then all of a sudden you're like...
Exactly. And that's one of the reasons why people may drop it. So, yeah.
And it's funny because, there's some people who could also be like, they could also walk up to like... And I think this is also but I think this is also where people get mad at voice actors, which is not a good thing. Like, don't take it on the actor. The actor's doing what they were told to do.
Hopefully we do not have to remind you guys of when that happens.
And they're following the script and the way the show was written or adapted. It's not always their fault. They're following what they're told to do, what the
directors were told to do.
But yeah, some people might be walking up to voice actors or directors and be like, hey, after they watch the show and it's disappointing, like,
oh, you think you're being
yeah, because all the fans are like, "Oh, you think you're being cute?"
Yep, exactly.
But and then all of a sudden it's like,
and then it sucks.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
But yeah, that's only 3 of the reasons why people may drop a certain show. Now this one, too many fillers. Really?
Oh, so okay, this one, dude, this is interesting because this is what happens.
This one's debatable.
This is not with every show, but it happens with some big titles like Naruto.
Yep.
Bleach had
Dragon Ball Z.
Dragon Ball Z.
The first go around, not Kai.
I think the only show that didn't have fillers was did One Piece have fillers? I don't think One Piece had any fillers. I think every episode was a part of the show. I think, I'm not sure. If anyone knows, let us know. I don't think they had any. I'm not sure.
I don't know.
I don't remember, but I know it happened with I know it happened with Naruto, and I know it happened with Bleach, and it also happened with Dragon Ball.
Let me see.
Dragon Ball Z or Dragon Ball Super. I'm sorry.
Well, I think the original go around for DBZ.
Yeah, the original.
We had
didn't Super had some side stories, didn't it?
I think it did. I'm not 100% sure.
Oh, I know where it happened in Super. It was when they started getting into the Beerus and the Champa arc. Right. When Champa first comes in, that whole fight, that whole mock fight was all filler before they got to Tournament Power.
Right. I remember.
Yeah, and so that kind of felt like a bunch of filler. Right. Now, who knows if it really was? Because I think the manga is more to the point, I think, with Super. So, and it's different in the manga, but yeah, that kind of did feel like filler. So, I mean, it happens with a lot of big shows where they throw in a lot of filler. And
I mean, depending on who you ask, I mean, if the filler doesn't really carry the same amount of energy that the original arc or the original pathway does, then it could be.
And then also the other thing too is that sometimes the filler doesn't follow the same story line. They go off on a side story.
Yep.
And Naruto's done that a couple times where they go off on side stories or
from what I heard, Shippuden was supposed to happen as soon as the Sasuke retrieval arc wrapped up. Mm-hmm. But from what I heard, the artist didn't necessarily have.
There wasn't enough volume of the manga, of the original content out to be able to produce more of.
Exactly, because it was just coming out at that time. Yeah. So they just gave us like 85
some
episodes
people,
of
and this is not the case with everybody, and I kind of disagree with this, but some people also thought that Dragon Ball GT, before Super came out, people thought the GT was filler just because they were waiting on what Toriyama was going to do next. But I kind of disagree with that because with GT, you can kind of look at it as, okay, this is an alternate universe. Right, and it's interesting enough to where, okay, you could see it potentially, something like that, maybe potentially happening if situations were different. But at the same time, you're like, it's not really, it's interesting and cool enough that they could make it fit, right?
Right.
But it's not exactly what it wasn't Toriyama's original idea for the continuation of Dragon Ball Z. So, yeah, I mean, like some people have said that, but I tend to disagree because GT was decent, right?
Yeah, depending on who you ask.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at it as like, so for example, Marvel has different universes where the What If series, so what if this happened, what if that happened,
Yep.
and then also different universes. So if you take it into that consideration, where it's like, okay, if you do Dragon Ball GT as a what if, it's like what if Super Saiyan, what if they didn't unlock the God Key and they just continued with the Super Saiyan levels,
Right.
Like, what if they found Super Saiyan 4 and they did, you could make it work.
You could, definitely.
You know.
Yeah, basically, pretty much. But yeah, actually, the final one, and this is pretty much possible with anybody. Your priorities change. Like, let's say,
True.
you don't really you get married, you have children, you're adulting.
Yeah.
You don't really watch anime as much.
True. Oh, you know what? That's funny you say that because look at us, Dante. We're two grown adults, or two people who are
in our
older.
30s.
Yeah, and dude,
the only reason we're still living with our parents is because the economy sucks right now.
Well, dude, that's most people right now our age. But so look at us, Dante. There is something to be said for the anime community and anime itself. And that is that it never really leaves you completely. Your priorities might change, but somewhere in your heart, somewhere in the core of you, there still is a piece of that there, and it'll always be with you because art,
that part of that always stays
art
with you.
and characters and kind of that whole what is it called, imagination kind of thing, right, from when you're a kid, always stays there.
It does.
So yeah, your priorities might change, but it may not ever leave you. And even if your priorities do change, you might get into something else where it's like, oh, well, this is very similar to what I was into before, or you might go back to it again.
Exactly.
Go back to it.
Like, you might find that one title that make you fall in love with anime again.
Yeah, all over again.
Like it did when you were a kid.
Exactly. Get ready.
I know, right?
This Saturday night, Toonami's got the new deal. Anyway.
But yeah, guys, these are basically we've actually touched on some pretty interesting reasons why most fans may drop certain shows, but these are basically the big common ones.
Yeah, and guys, remember something too is that you guys may not agree with everything we've said, right?
Right.
So don't take it personally, guys. We're just throwing out things that have happened to us sometimes, and also things
we're basically
that happen
speaking
to
from
most
experience.
People. Yeah. Now this may not happen to you. You may be a person who, I turn my brain off at every show just because I like just watching animation and watching anime, right?
Exactly.
If that's you, then do what you like to do, right? We're not saying that you shouldn't do this, but it might happen to you while watching something. Like you just might be like, hey, look, I'm just not interested, or I just lost
don't find
interest.
this appealing.
Yeah, or you don't find it appealing. And that happens a lot of times with stuff.
Yeah, that's true, definitely. So yeah, guys, this will pretty much wrap up number 21, the legal drinking age of our Nerds of the Decade episode. So, dude, did you have any final thoughts?
I have one.
That's just precious.
Yeah.
Apparently. So yeah, guys, please do not forget, if you like what you see and you want to hear more, hit that subscribe button.
Yes, and
like.
Yes, and please feel free to follow us on all of our social media, Twitter, Facebook, wherever you get your social media. Watch more of our episodes. Go watch some of the other older ones we've done. Watch some of the other shorter stuff we've done. We've done quite a couple unboxings now, right, dude?
Yeah, we have.
And also, don't forget about DNA Extras. If you want us to cover game content or anything that we don't normally get to talk about on the podcast, we now have DNA Studios Extras.
And don't forget to watch the one that we just previously dropped.
Yes, we did. Dante, what's the title?
It was the top 10 Sonic the Hedgehog zones.
Yeah, so go check it out, guys, if you haven't already.
Definitely.
And with that, guys,
until next time,
stay nerdy.
And stay out of trouble.
Yes.